Hello, welcome to Catholic Life, ordinary people with extraordinary faith. I'm Deacon Jody Moscona, and I thank you for joining us today. Today we're going to talk a little bit about education from a different perspective than we usually do when we're talking about Catholic schools and that sort of thing. We're going to talk to Dr. Dr Meinert, who's a associate professor of theology at FranU. Now, many of you don't know what FranU is, but it's the old Our Lady of the Lake College. So welcome, Dr. Meinert.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Call you John, because we
That'd be great.
We don't need that doctor stuff right
I'm
here.
from the Midwest, so that's
cool.
That fits with me.
You see, you had credibility till you said that.
Oh, really?
Just kidding. Just kidding. We're so parochial in Louisiana, you know, you just got to come down our spot, you know. So, listen, I'm glad to have you on because, you know, our whole deacon program has been transferred to FranU.
Right.
So I think we got 4 years into it now. The fifth one's going to come this year.
That's right. They'll be starting their 5th year this fall, and they'll be ordained next summer.
Yeah, and so it's really exciting to actually see that. I remember when it was a thought, you know, and now it's coming to fruition, and we'll be ordaining deacons who have been students of the university in the night school primarily.
Right.
And so that's how it works. So tell us a little bit about yourself. I know you obviously have a PhD in theology from somewhere. So tell the folks a little bit about yourself.
Well, I grew up on a farm in the Midwest. And I did my undergraduate education at Benedictine College, which is a small college in northeast Kansas. And I did my master's at University of Dallas in Dallas. And
which is a Catholic university.
That's right,
and,
yeah.
And a lot of people don't realize
that's
that.
That's right. It's sponsored by the diocese, actually.
Right, yeah.
And I did my doctorate in moral theology at Catholic University of America in D.C. And, you know, in between, after undergraduate, halfway through my master's, I got married. And my wife and I have 4 kids, and twin 6-year-olds, a 4-year-old, and a 1-year-old.
Wow, twin 6-year-olds.
Yeah.
Isn't
that awesome?
Yeah, that is. That's a handful.
Sometimes.
Yeah, I love that. So I guess the question a lot of people would have is, what directed you toward theology? How did you, I mean, what was your nudge? What was your sense of pull that led you to that?
I think initially in undergraduate, I didn't really own my faith. And so I went into undergraduate knowing I wanted to help people, but just having that kind of undifferentiated desire. Right. So I think I started off in psychology. Why? Who knows? You know, I thought, oh, psychology, I'll help people somehow. And through Benedictine College, taking theology classes, et-cetera, I realized that, I mean, in part, I wasn't practicing my faith fully because I was under a lot of, I believed a lot of falsehoods about the church. Oh, definitely. Yeah. And it was actually a class on Catholic social thought that brought me back to fully participating, and through the witness and faith of the other students at Benedictine College. Right. And so through that, I kind of started changing majors. You know, I switched from psychology to criminology because I was doing a lot of volunteer work with incarcerated juveniles. And I was like, oh, that's how I'll help people. And then I went pre-law because I thought, oh, well, I will probably be able to help them better if I know something about the law.
Good
and then
move
I went
getting away from that, by the way.
Yes, I know. And then I went canon law when I decided, well, maybe I enjoy studying law, so maybe I'll go into canon law. And then I realized that I don't want to deal with annulments. So I went straight to theology. That's and good. I remember going to my undergraduate advisor and saying, I want to study theology. And he said to me, so what else will you major in? And I was like, why are you saying that? He said, well, someday you have to support a family, and just theology isn't going to do it. And I said, well, I plan on going on for further studies. He said, oh, well, you'll probably be okay then. So I kind of backed into theology and just kept going.
So what I know what a lot of people don't understand is when you talk about theology, there's a way to look at it through the proper lens. So let's start with philosophy. Through philosophy, we can know there is a God.
Right.
We just don't know how God is, because you need to get to theology to know who God is. So did you kind of follow that path a little bit? Did you take philosophy, a lot of it?
Oh, definitely, definitely. But it was more the reverse for me. I was raised Catholic. And so in some sense, I was always...
So you knew who God was.
Right, being formed in that. It was more just the end of my teenage years.
Falling away a little bit.
Falling away, but also some kind of influences. I was reading a lot of liberation theology. I don't know if Leonardo Boff, Gustavo Gutierrez, that kind of thing. So I ended up thinking about the church as just kind of, I don't know, a hegemonic system of controlling people and power and stuff. And then when I read Catholic Social Thought, I was like, no, this is true.
Yeah.
This is definitely true.
So, you know, a lot of people don't, when you say Catholic Social Thought, they don't know Regnum Novara. Is that how you say it?
Rerum Novarum.
That's kind of where it started, kind of, sort of, you know. And when you read that document from the 1800s, you go, wow, it's kind of applicable today.
Definitely.
You know, but it had a time and a place and a purpose when the Pope wrote it.
Right.
And we're a little bit into the deep side here, but stay with us, it'll make some sense. That was a document that basically talked about the fact that workers had a right to get together to protect their interest.
Right.
I mean, I'm simplifying a very long document.
Right.
But it kicked off the idea that the church was going to participate in social dynamics, how people get along.
Right.
And it's ballooned into a lot more because many
Definitely.
other popes have written and different things. So it's interesting, though, that you latched onto this to find your faith.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people who use their faith to latch onto this.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, it moves both ways. So I find that a lot of people in teaching Catholic social thought, it's a kind of, not a lot of Catholics know about it. But it's really just about the implications of the gospel for the social sphere. Like, I love Jesus. How should I behave in the workplace? How should I treat my workers? How should I participate in international conflicts? Things like that. Because I love Christ, right? How can I bring him and his truth into the public square? So most people go that way. But I ended up coming kind of the reverse way, that I was interested in those kinds of things. And then I read the church's opinion on them, and I said, that's the truth. And so what drives her to those things has to be true also. The Trinity, the divine institution of the church, right? All of that kind of stuff has to be true, because this is definitely so you can go both ways, right? It's kind of unified Catholic worldview.
Right.
Yeah.
Kind of sucks everybody into the same sphere because we all want to live like Christ.
That's it.
So,
exactly.
So if it's pulling us here from whatever direction, it has the same purpose.
Yeah.
To shoot us into the world in a way that makes us makes us in the world but not of the world, so to speak.
Right.
Yeah. So that's interesting. When you get your degree and how you wind up here?
Well, the academic job market is such that there are far too many, the universities are producing far too many doctorates, and the number of university positions, especially in theology, are shrinking. So you move where you get a job.
Where you get a job.
Right? So in God's providence, I'm here and I'm employed, and I'm very thankful for that. But since moving to Louisiana, we've really come to love the place and the people and the culture. It's really fantastic. And we've got such an opportunity at FranU. Right, we're the only Catholic university in the diocese. Right, we just need to become what we're supposed to be. Right, there's no one else.
Right, I had Dr. Holland on a while back, and we were talking about her vision. This is before the changeover from Our Lady of Lake College to FranU. It was when all that dynamic was happening. She had a really larger than life vision at the time.
It's because she's larger than life.
It's kind of happening though, you know.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
And she was wonderful. And did she come from Holy Cross College in South Bend?
She did.
Yeah, because one of my sons went there for a year,
cool.
so we had a little synergy going on.
Okay.
And the vision of FranU, and we talked about it. You know, we have a city here with a major university, a second major university, and we don't have people say, well, we don't have a Catholic university. Well, we had a Catholic college, now we have a Catholic university. You know, so it's kind of like thrusting the Catholic educational world into our midst for us. But people still have a hard time realizing, because they think, oh, that's that little place you go to be a nurse.
No
right?
doubt.
You know?
No doubt.
And I got a lot of friends whose kids became nurses because they went to Our Lady of Lake College, you know.
Right.
But it's far more than that now. And so I know that, tell us a little bit about the movement toward a undergraduate theology degree that I think is either offered now or going to be offered.
Yeah, we began offering it last fall of 2018.
Right. Okay.
And so it really started with my colleague, David Whidden, who has been at the university, I think, 8 years now. And he really kicked the whole thing off and had a long-term vision for how FranU could be the kind of intellectual heart of the Diocese of Baton Rouge and to really serve the people in that role. And so he initially started it off by conceiving of the diaconate program along with Father Jamin in the diocese. And that really helped us kickstart the undergraduate theology program, which started last fall. But also we've extended into doing lay formation for the diocese, so any lay ministers who want to do continuing education. We also have a theology certificate for anyone who's just interested in studying. So it's really, the Lord's been working, and it's really expanded a lot in the past 4 years.
Right. So FranU is, the facilities are nice. I've been over there. You know, I've seen, you know, we've had some meetings over there, and I'm like, this has been here all along? You know, it's like, where have you been?
Yeah, right.
It's because I think, isn't the nursing school on the other side of Essen? Kind of, sort of?
Good question.
Yeah, I'm just, I mean, we're fishing here. I mean, you know the academic part, you know the theology part.
Right.
And that's the part that I've come to know a little bit more about through the diaconate program. What we need to tell everybody, I guess, is a little bit more about that, how the deacons now are being formed in the theology department of FranU, which is a little bit different than we used to be, where we were just kind of formed here with some adjunct professors coming in from outside. You know what we'll do? Let's take a short break because we're almost on there, and let's talk about that when we come back, and then we'll get into some of the bioethics and social Catholic thought that is your interest. How's that?
Sounds great.
All right. We're going to take a short break. On the other side of the break, we're going to continue with Dr. Dr Meinert, who is an associate professor of theology at FranU, which is the old Our Lady of the Lake College. And we're going to talk about the changes, the dynamics, about the deacon program, and how it all is functioning these days, and then we'll get into some maybe a little bit deeper Catholic theology. Okay, stay with us. We'll be right back.
Focus, a weekly series that takes an inspirational and informative look at today's culture through religious, entertaining, and informative family-oriented programs. Join us each week for Focus here on Catholic Life Television.
Welcome back to Catholic Life. Glad you stayed with us through the break. Today we're talking to Dr. Dr Meinert, who's an associate professor at FranU, and we've been talking we've been trying not to get too deep in theology because you could really fall off the cliff, you know, and get really deep into some of the stuff. And we don't want to bore everybody. We don't want to have your eyes glaze over like mine did when I was studying for my master's. But one of the things that I think is pretty interesting is that anybody can go to FranU and take, let's just call it catechism classes.
Right.
You know, we would call them theology classes, but there's a whole list of courses that are available, and anybody can go and take one.
That's right.
Right. And so if you really want to go, and you can get credit for it.
Yes.
You know, so this is an opportunity for Catholics to know a little bit more about being Catholic. And kind of the reason why we kind of invited you is because, you know, the theme is ordinary people with extraordinary faith. And for you to step out on faith for your whole career into theology makes your faith evident, you know, and it means you're living it every day.
Yeah.
And so I think people that are watching should say, wow, there's a guy that basically lives his faith every day because he teaches it, you know, and that's important for people to know that there are people like you around, you know, not just that you're some, you know, professor with
tweed and stuff.
You know,
oh no.
That's your blue jeans and a shirt, you know, and you're a regular person.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh yeah.
So
for better or worse.
So tell me, just perfunctorily, how many classes do you have to teach a semester?
So typically, I mean, the typical teaching load at FranU is 4 classes a semester. So in university lingo, I have a 4-4, 4 in the fall, 4 in the spring. And so universities that are more teaching heavy, a 4-4 is a pretty typical load. If you get to universities where they're pushing their professors to do more research, then you're going to get lower to like a 3-3 or a 2-2 or a 1-1. If you're, I think somewhere like Notre Dame in South Bend in Indiana, where you're expected to do a lot of publishing and research, it's probably a 2-1 or something like that. But I have a 4-4, which means most of my time is spent teaching.
Teaching and grading and preparing lessons.
Most of my time is spent grading.
Yeah. Amen. Amen. I hear you. So let's talk. You tweaked my curiosity a little bit when you threw out the term bioethics. Because I know when I say that to everybody, they're going, bioethics? What is that? Well, you basically summarized it for me in a few short words when you said, I forget exactly how you said it, but it's like, go ahead.
I don't remember what I said.
You said something like it's about life.
Yeah, I mean, Catholic bioethics is just taking the gospel and applying it to the way we do healthcare. So from the beginning to end of life, the way we organize structural systems of Catholic healthcare, the way we deliver it, the way we bill, the gospel has things to say about all of this.
Right.
And so bioethics is just trying to study the church's vision for what healthcare is, how it should operate, how we should treat patients, and then all the way down to controversial things like stem cell research, genetic alterations, abortion, that kind of thing.
Right. So when I think of bioethics in the controversial realm, you think about the hybrid beings that are trying to be created through bio mutations, and it's like my brain melts over when I think of those things, But really, there's a lot simpler Catholic perspective of bioethics. It's more like, how do you pay your bill? How do we provide the services?
Right.
And so when you're teaching, you teach classes on that, I'm sure.
Yeah.
How many bioethics classes are offered?
Well, I offer one Catholic bioethics class in the fall and the spring, and then typically I teach a 1-credit kind of intensive for all the graduate programs. So your PA, your DNP, your DPT, right? All those allied health fields, they get like a 1-credit inoculation, right, of Catholic bioethics. So those are offered. There's quite a few of those.
Okay. So if we go from that to the controversy, and we go from how do you pay your bill, how do you provide the service, to what is the service, which is really where you move from there. Is the service providing an abortion? Is the service providing a unique kind of cure that uses stem cells from aborted fetuses?
Right.
That's where it gets kind of messy.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So do you get into that kind of stuff?
Oh, definitely.
So how are those classes?
They're great.
So what do the students, how do they react?
Depends on where the student is, and what their kind of worldview they're bringing into the class. And what I try to do as a professor is just to give them, one, an accurate understanding of what the church teaches about all the different healthcare related issues. But then two, I want to give them the space to wrestle with that, right? Because that's where the real growth comes. So I'm very strict on, you have to understand and accurately articulate what the church teaches, but I'm not enforcing you to believe it. But you have to be able to articulate it accurately so that you can have the freedom to accept it, because now you know what it is, or the freedom to wrestle with it, right? Until you know what it is, you can't do either, right? You're just dealing with caricatures.
So you just undermined my homily for this week when
bummer.
you talked about freedom.
I'm sorry.
Because everybody has a misconception where freedom is.
That's true.
Basically, you were talking about the license to do what they want to do.
Right.
Freedom is to be free from something, not
right.
freedom to do something.
Right.
Anyway, that's my homily. You don't have to come to church Sunday. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, that's true. That's absolutely true. We have a deep sickness, you might say, in our culture that we think freedom is negative. It's primarily no one enforcing their views on me, right? And the church's vision of freedom is that, one, it starts with the truth, right? You're not free until you know the truth, right? Which is where I come in.
You're free to seek the truth.
Right. You can't stop at a stop sign until you know it's there, right?
Right.
You got to know what it is, what it means, right? Which means you have to study all the bioethical stuff before you can do anything, right?
Right.
Yeah. Right. Freedom is born from the truth. That's the Catholic vision, definitely.
Right. And so when we talk about the truth and we stand on the truth, then that's where we get to deviate from the truth.
That's right. Yeah.
And that's where the problems come in.
Yes, definitely.
So, so your students, what kind of, I'm fishing here. What do you see in the students that are coming in that are 18, 19 years old? Are they, you think they're in need of formation?
Oh, desperately.
Okay.
Desperately. But it's different in South Louisiana than it was teaching other places. I mean, other places I taught at Catholic U and I taught at Georgetown for a little bit, and I taught for a couple semesters at Benedictine where I did undergraduate. And each of the students were different. But what I see in South Louisiana is a culture that still thinks Christianity is important, right? They may not be practicing, they may not understand it a lot, but they're far more open to it than young people other places, right? Where a lot of students I saw in DC, for example, were in one of two places. They were actively hostile, or they were just didn't know anything and didn't care. Right. And the students here may not know much, but they at least think they ought to care, which means it's a lot easier to draw them back than it is other places.
And you know, part of the issue I think that you're hitting on is that's because of our culture. That's because, like I was thinking about it, how many of our just normal things are based upon our Catholic faith. How many of our civil parishes are named after Catholic faith?
That's right. Oh, yeah.
Ascension.
It's everywhere
Assumption,
here. St. John, St. James.
St. James,
yeah.
St. Charles.
The fact that it's named a parish. Yeah. I'm from the Midwest, so I keep calling them counties.
Counties, right. And so what happens is, because we've held on to the cultural draw of faith, even though we're not forcing people to live it, people kind of get it.
That's right. There's something communicated there where people recognize this is important. And you know, I lost it personally, but I'm finding it again. Yeah.
And so what happens, I think, the important role you play and the faith that you bring to your job is that you're able to kind of bridge a gap for these students.
Mm-hmm.
They kind of know it's important, they kind of know they should know, but they don't know for whatever reason.
Right.
And so you can say, hey, let me challenge you to know something you don't know. And
That's
when you
right.
challenge people, they usually follow.
Yeah. And I think my own personal witness is helpful for young Catholics and young people of other Christian faiths and also non-believers to know that there's a young person who seems relatively articulate, who actually is totally committed to Christ. It opens up a space of freedom for them to engage with this. I think a lot of people have this sense that anyone who believes is just some kind of like backwards, silly and foolish person, right? That the real intelligent people, they don't believe anything. That's just not true.
Yeah, we could get into a deep conversation about whether science proves or disproves God and all that kind of stuff. And our pastor, Father Eric Guyan, has been teaching on that for about a year now, using the Eucharistic miracles to say science not only doesn't disprove God, it proves God.
Oh yeah,
know?
Definitely.
And so there are a lot of other parts of this that you know. So look, we have about a minute or so left. Tell me what your sense of the future at FranU is, and where its future holds.
I don't know. I mean, as with all things Catholic, I entrust it to God's providence. I'm not sure what he's going to do with it. It looks like he's growing it into something that's going to be really exciting for the local church. Maybe he'll kill it off tomorrow. I have no idea. I hope not. But
so your answer epitomizes what this show is all about. You have faith.
That's right.
That the Lord is working through your efforts and the efforts of everyone else at FranU to create something that that is bringing Christ deeper to some of the students and hopefully to the population of Baton Rouge ultimately when they graduate and move on.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's great. So you just evidenced the purpose of our show in your last comment. That was great.
God's providence again.
Amen. Amen. Listen, it was great having you here. I know, having professors, sometimes we could have got off the deep end. We could have gone into some topics I would have enjoyed, but I don't think we would have kept everybody watching for a while. But I want to thank you for coming and filling us in on what's going on in FranU.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And thank you for watching today. We hope you enjoyed this little walk around FranU as we tiptoed through the tulips a little bit and it kind of gave you a taste of what's going on over there. If you want more information, you can always go to FranU online and look at what they're offering and what the opportunities are for you. Until next time, God bless.